And so from here, Jeffrey Ozongo, our correspondent, is standing by at Community Secondary School, Amobia, with Cynthia Mbamalu, I believe, to give us more perspectives on the conduct of this exercise. Over to you now, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Bukola. This is actually a community primary school in Amobia in Oka South local government area. A quick update, looking at the 3 polling units we have here. Polling unit 001, 002, and 003, 0010, that's 010. We have registered to vote here 1,411 for 001, 002 has 1,454, and then PU 010, which is the one you have been seeing from the live, is about 457 registered voters, which is the least. But I did a tour walking around asking the officials how many people as at 9:15 had voted. They said it's less than 10, less than 100, I should say, which means that as at now, based on the data they gave to me, is way less than 10% of registered voters, especially in 001 and 002. But Cynthia Mbamalu, Program Director at Yiaga Africa, and Larry Arugundede, Executive Director of International Press Center, they joined me. Gentlemen and ladies, now we've witnessed this for another 25 minutes.
Yes.
So it's basically to review what you've seen so far from the exercise. Cynthia, let me start with you.
Well, I think first is to commend INEC, at least for this community and primary school. We had early arrival of personnel and materials. And, you know, for us, the test for a good process is the ability to deploy materials and personnel on time. And from 8:30, 8:40, the process commenced. That's accreditation and voting across these 3 polling units. And I think so far, the materials are present. The beavers, only in 002 that one of the beavers had a little issue, but immediately they referred, or rather they moved to the other beavers to accredit and authenticate voters. I think it had issues with verifying the PVCs of some of the voters. But so far, it seems to be a smooth process. But when you talked about the numbers, ordinarily we should have about a total of 3,317 or so voting in this community primary school. But as at this morning, on a count, you don't have up to 10 people on the queue now across the 3 polling units. And it just shows that there's that whole conversation around lower turnout in Anambra State. We're beginning to see that in some states, in the morning, this is where you see queue all the way down, and you're trying to manage the crowd, especially for this primary school that has a large number of registered voters, and it's quite significant in the Oka South data registration of voters. But as it is now, it looks like we just have numbers trickling in. I hope by noon we would have a lot more voters turning out, but we're barely close to 5% actually in this community primary school as at this morning.
And so we're heading to 2:30, which is the time the
process should end.
And as you said, the momentum should have built from the very beginning. We want to come and do this and get out before the sun comes out. Larry, what do you make of this? The exact number, I think, is 3,322 total number of voters across the 3 polling units here. Over 1,004, 1,003 here, and about less than 500 here. But
so
the numbers.
In an ideal situation, we would like to see at least about 200 people already here across the 3 polling units. So far, it's not impressive. But we're looking at what would happen between now and 2:30. One other aspect of the voting here, which is of interest to us, is the question of security. I think I must say that we have a good security presence. Even before the INEC officials arrived, about 6 policemen and women were already on the ground, and we're looking out for any element of incident. So far, there has been no incident recorded in this particular, community primary school where we have, 3, polling units. One other thing I've observed is assistance for the elderly. In polling unit 1, there was an elderly man that came. He couldn't even stand. He had to sit. And they took the beavers to him to capture him and enable him to vote. Those are the kind of things we're looking at. But the real test is the question of turnout. Looking at what happened in 2021 when turnout was about, was it 10 something? 10 point something %, which was really not impressive. But it's still early, and we are here. we have to get information on what is going on in other places for us to have an overall picture of turnout.
Why this is important? Because this is the city center.
This is the city center.
It's supposed to be the safest, most accessible, easy to do whatever you want to do, maybe better than other hinterland areas. That's why this concern is developing. As you said, it's still early in the day. But Cynthia, talk to us about the conduct of INEC officials themselves in terms of compliance with the process.
Yeah, I would say that from what we've observed so far, they were quite professional and coordinated, at least in the setup, the way they address the voters. Although for some of them, it seemed like they were not fully attentive during the training. But for the majority of them, at least they gave out the key message on what voters should know about the voting, showing that the BVAS is at 0, the ballot boxes are empty, and how they should queue. I think so far it's been good. When the BVAS issue had in the 002, when I was observing, I was impressed with how the lady, she tried another person's PVC, and then she just told them, okay, can you stand here? I'm not able to verify you now. And then later she asked her colleague, can we do that? The fact that she was able to manage it, because these are the kind of things, some people say, oh, go back, go, your problem is your PVC, and not realizing it could be the BVAS. But she wanted to test other PVCs to be sure it wasn't a PVC issue. And I think that for me is impressive. So far they are coordinated, and they are getting the work done, and they are crediting the voters, and voters are getting to vote. You also have them even doing voter education in the line. One of the women, one of the assistant POs, she was telling the voters, oh, don't fold your ballot paper this way. You have to fold it inwardly vertical, and so that is also useful. But when you talked about this is also where student communities should be voting. So I was expecting a lot of young people coming out to vote because of the youth population within Awka South. And we know Awka South is one of the battleground local government because it has one of the, I think probably the second highest, 1,000, yes, after Idemili North, and then before we go to Onitsha North and South, and then like Agwata. But so the expectation was that I would see a lot more younger people here because there are student communities around here, and there are what you call off-campus accommodations for students also around there. So I thought we would have younger people here, but it's unfortunate that we've had more elderly people or middle-aged showing up to vote. And so we're hoping that if students are watching, young people are watching, just come out, just come out. We'll be begging, just come out and vote. Honestly, the BVAS as it is just come out and vote if you're a young person watching.
At least at this center is safe, we can say that.
Yes.
There's enough security presence.
Yes,
the police, the
exactly.
you have nothing to worry about. So we're not wearing any bulletproof vests.
And to add to that, the policemen have also been quite professional.
Yeah.
Because we also look at their attitude towards observers and journalists, the gentlemen of the press. I observed you go to Police Unit 1 to talk to the officials, showing BVAS and how it's going to work. And they didn't really say, oh, don't come near, don't take pictures. We even took their own photographs. This is a kind of professional conduct that we expect on all the critical stakeholders when it comes to election. The INEC, the security agencies, and all others. I think we should also mention that we have a very large contingent of observer groups observing this election. Yes, we have had a number of others that are trooped in here, which again shows that all eyes, so to say, are on Anambra right now.
Big one. There's something that Cynthia spoke to it in passing. I want you to build on it. We're already worried about turnout of voters. Less than 100 per polling unit when we have over 1,000 as at 9:15. Maybe early days. Let's assume it's early time. But experience has shown that this is supposed to be the biggest momentum. Yeah. And as the sun begins to come, we begin to see a decline in the people coming in. Talk to us about what you saw in terms of their voting process, because if we're already dealing with low voter turnout, another crisis could be how they vote.
How they vote, yeah.
Thumb printing. How they fold the paper.
So from what I've observed, I think among those who have voted, the majority seem to understand what they're supposed to do. I didn't see them, because one of the things we look out for is about vote buying. And the way it happens is when you cast your vote, and then you show somebody standing at a distance what you have done to confirm that, yes, I've done the right thing, then you get, whatever. So far, that has not really happened here. The secrecy of the ballots is maintained where it's put. People go there, and it's only when they want to insert the ballot paper that they come out in the open. I guess there is some level of education around here. Maybe because it's a city center, maybe it's because it's a school environment, that people understand what they're doing. And for those, like Cynthia said, who perhaps didn't know what to do, we saw the officials trying to let them know that this is what you have to do, and this is how you have to fold it. I saw somebody who was really getting his votes jealously, and exactly as if it was something else, put it there, and that was it.
Fantastic. So, Cynthia, you mentioned it, so I'll come back to you on it. Where we've seen elderly people, middle-aged people showing up way more than the younger people. I remember when INEC started the CVR drive. One of the things we celebrated was the young people coming on board and all of that. Why is it not? I know that I saw a young boy. I had to look at him. I walked to him and said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 18." I said, "Okay." Okay. The guy, he looks younger, but maybe it's his looks. So talk to us about that demographic which we are trying to get to make a decision for their future. Today, a decision will be made that will affect 4 years of their lives.
Yes, of governance in the States.
Yes, and interestingly, one of our partner elected, they had done a survey on citizens' needs for Anambra, and 3 issues that came out: security, employment, and healthcare. And if you think about employment, a lot of young people, especially younger women, employment is a key thing for them. So you would expect that in these elections, young people would turn out to make their voices heard through the ballots. But it's unfortunate, like you mentioned, I was just going and looking at people's faces, and I was asking myself, where are the first-time voters? Those who registered first time, why are they not turning out to vote? I think it's a bigger question on, one, the value we place on our vote. I think secondly, the issues around trust. And this is where a lot of civic education needs to go into. How we promote the sanctity of the process, how we promote that the system is working, is going to go a long way to inspire confidence. For a lot of young people, the narrative out there is your vote don't count. Politicians tell you, we already know who the winners would be. We are in control of the system. And so for a lot of them, they're also worried, like, I don't think my vote will count. Why should I come out to vote? We interacted with some young people during the recruitment of observers in the communities across the 21 LGAs. Some of them didn't even want to observe, because we're trying to get some of them to observe elections. And they said, no, why are you observing? All your observation reports, what has changed? I don't want to observe. It's a waste of my time. I'd rather just rest. So it won't get them to observe elections. Ordinarily, in some states, young people are approaching you and saying, I want to observe. But here, we had more elderly people who were willing to observe elections than younger people. So it's beyond just voting. It's that political consciousness on the importance of participating in the electoral process. And I think there's a lot of work to be done in Anambra State in particular. If it comes to civic education, we need to, we need a whole overhaul on the voter education system in the state, and refocus our message into the younger population.
Yes, and Cynthia and Larry will come to you in just a moment. This is the update as far as this center is concerned, the community primary school in Amobia in Oka South local government area, where we have polling units 001, 002, and 010, that's 010, in Ward 1 right here. And this local government is the second largest in terms of the voting block, 214,000. But let's cross over to my colleague Charles Oporo, who is in the Nnewi Ihiala axis. Charles, what exactly is happening? What can you see? What are you hearing?
Hi, Jeff. Yes, I am in Central School, Oto. This is Nnewi South local government area of Anambra State. So this is just a follow-up from the incident that occurred at Nkwo Ibuku in Agwata, where some market masters and all that, when they swarmed me and asked us to shut down the cameras because they were a bit suspicious. But then when we had a conversation with them, we were able to allay their fears and tell them that we were journalists, and we just came to ask questions why the market was still open. And the market master there said they are going to fine anybody whose shop is open 10,000 naira, and they basically chased all the women away. So just to clarify what transpired over there at Nkwo Ibuku. So, but here at Central School, Oto, all the polling units behind me, in total there are about 5 polling. There are 5, 6, 7, 8 polling units behind me, right here in the central school, also. Okay, and from my interaction with some of the residents and the natives here, they say the electoral materials arrived on time, and there's been no incident. Accreditation and voting, they are going on side by side, and so far so good. Barring some arguments between party agents. Now, when we arrived there, we had some shouting. It was basically a shouting match, disagreements between some party agents. But then, aside that, everything has been going on smoothly. Jeff.
Thank you, Charles. As a matter of fact, we'll touch base with you as soon as you touch as many places within the axis you're covering. So we'll get a panoramic view of what exactly is playing out as far as the election in Anambra State is concerned. It's the Anambra State governorship election taking place today across the 21 local government, over 300 wards, and over 5,000 polling units spread across the entire state, where a critical decision is being made today as to who leads the state in the next 4 years. My guests, we're used to panelists, Cynthia Mbamalo of Yiaga Africa and Larry Arobodede of International Press Center. Let me come to you, Larry. I know your people are around in terms of monitoring, sure. So it's important we get a feel outside here what they are reporting to you.
Yeah, in fact, I was just chatting with Cynthia about some disturbing reports from Onitsha. Some of the officials had to move from the INEC office there because they don't have racks. And that's at 8:30 when I spoke, with one official, and they said that the officials were just about to leave. They had not even,
That's
left.
INEC officials.
INEC officials. I mean, the polling officials, the officials who will go to the various, polling units in some parts of Onitsha, which was quite worrisome because here, the first set of officials for the first 2 polling units, they came around 7:07. That was when they first arrived. And even the third one, 010, that came a bit late, they were here by 10 minutes past 8. And by 8:30, the 3 were ready. They had pasted the register of voters in these polling units. They had done everything. And then the process. So that kind of thing, that's why we're saying that we really need to pick reports everywhere. And it's not good enough that you had a situation where, as at 8:30, when accreditation and voting should start, they were just about, moving. These kind of things create apprehension, and we're hoping that INEC officials will be listening to us as we're doing this program live, and it will be good for them to quickly check on the latest development in that place. We believe they would have arrived at the various polling units, but nothing should be taken for granted in this kind of situation.
Cynthia, what are you hearing from the field report?
Yes, so that's what I was trying to, we're discussing this. Interestingly, yesterday, we also had teams deployed to observe the deployment to racks. And Onitsha, as at 12 noon yesterday, had not even started moving. And so we were actually saying we need to watch out for that particular, the particular LGA. And so it's not surprising to see that. We're also seeing that we may have been observing slower start in some of the other local governments, unlike Oka. And it's expected, Oka South is urban and is close to the INEC office, and I guess that's why we may have earlier regulation opening here. So like places like them, Orumba North and South, where we have teams deployed. In some places, the Onitsha point that he had mentioned, the observers were saying as at 7:30 we didn't have materials in some of the polling units like we had here, and so we're seeing that these early starts may not have been widespread. It could have been in some locations. But I'm sure that by 10 o'clock, we'll have a better sense, because now we're just following up with the observers in the field to be sure that process commenced at least by 9 o'clock across polling units. But there's been some slow start in some of the other local governments, unlike Oka South.
Me and Larry were looking up. So,
yes.
So I don't know whether our camera can pick or it has gone too far.
Yes.
Where we can see helicopter, security helicopter, police helicopter flying around to make sure that they have a very wide view of happening. So this is just reassuring to the people that
it's reassuring.
The police are doing their bits.
We wonder why can't they just maybe use drones, because helicopter can have sometimes a scary effect. Some people say,
before I throw it back to the studio, let's talk about from what you've seen so far. Let me start with you, Cynthia. what are your possible projections? You've done this over and over again. So this scenario is already giving you an idea of how this may end. What is that idea?
Well, the idea is obviously there's an anticipated turnout that will be low. From this, just observing here, which is an urban area, I think that one of the things we may see is lower turnout. I don't know if we'll get up to 20% turnout. I was hoping we would move above the mark of 20%. You know, we've been on 10% consistently, but I don't know if we would move above 20%. The other for me is we most likely will have different stories across different locations based on how materials are deployed. And so while we're celebrating earlier commencement in some locations, there's a likelihood that we may not have these positive stories in some places. However, my projection is that it wouldn't be as worse as 2021, because 2021, by 10:30, barely 50% of polling units had commenced voting across the state. By 10, which is 2 hours after the official commencement time. And by 12 noon, about 28% of polling units had not even started the process. And so what we're expecting is that this time around, we may have more than 50% of polling units that commenced the process as at 10:30 a.m. But it wouldn't be highly widespread the way you were expecting, but that's one of the things. I think the third part for me is that this may be relatively peaceful, however, that we would need better security for collation process, because usually towards 2:30 and towards collation, there's a lot more tension because that's where the numbers begin to count, begin to make sense. And so we're hoping that we'll have better deployment during the close of polls, especially in battleground LGAs. Idemili North, like we talked earlier, this LGA, Onitsha North and South in particular, it's important to have that in Agwata, and I know Agwata would also be an interesting story to see in these elections.
Absolutely. You know, we call it the calm before the storm.
Yes.
This is the calm.
This is the calm, yeah.
The storm is coming. We hope it can be managed properly because the stakes can be quite high.
Yes.
But I don't know whether the camera, before I come to you, Larry, and throw it back to the studio, I want to talk about your projection. That polling units behind us is 002. It has the highest number of registered voters, 1,454. But you can see the scantiness of the persons here, which is supposed to be the momentum of voting, because the weather has been very kind to all of us. I was sweating so much that I had to pull off my jacket. Yeah, so if the weather is calm and this is early and this is happening, we're not sure. We want to be wrong by saying we spoke too early. But Larry, you have something to say?
Yeah, just to say that I also observed that some people really don't know where their names are. So some of them have to go from this place to this place before finally, you know, getting their names. But you know, apart from opening accreditation and voting, availability of materials and incidents, one other thing we're also looking out for is the inclusion of this process in terms of gender. I must say that around here, I tend to be seeing more, you know, women.
Because Anambra
coming out and
yeah, I saw more women.
Possibly, yes, outnumbering the men.
Elderly women.
Elderly women, you are right. And the other thing is about presence of party agents. Because in polling unit 1, I took time out I saw some people seated, and I went to there, I was asking, are you a party agent? And they were saying they were not party agents. And I'm like, where are the party agents? Only one person said, I'm an agent. I will have 16 political parties.
16, and just not to cut you, I went here, and coincidentally, when I went to make some inquiry, I did ask, I heard them saying, where are the party agents? I could barely see any party agent.
Because you see, that's one of the things we say about our political parties.
Yes.
They don't take the process as seriously as to understand that their agents have a critical role to play in letting us know whether this process is transparent. Because by the time voting is concluded and you have counting, they would have to countersign,
yes,
and then have a copy of the results. Each party contesting election should be able to compute its own result across all the polling units, the wards, the local governments, and then the states. Yes. Otherwise, they would then come around. Some of them will say, oh, the process was not this. But were you there? Did you witness it? For me, this is a major shortcoming, at least in this vicinity that we've seen, the absence of party agents to monitor the elections. They are actually, party agents are actually the chief monitors, the chief observers of the election.
Yes.
I know you've been itching to say something about this party agent thing. Talk to us.
I know we were having this conversation, and I went to the three. And I was like, where are the party agents? And this is where the problem is, because, you know, when he talks about the party agents, in the Act, Electoral Act actually gives party agents the right to different things. First, make a demand for recount. The Act gives you that right as a party agent. You can make a demand for recount. You have a right to countersign. And then you have a right to question the process if it's not going in line with the Act. Party agents have that right in the law. But if they are not here, then how would they raise those questions? Observers don't even have that right in the law. It's not recognized to make questions and make demands. We're there to just observe and you know, document what we observe. And so that's a bigger question. Now, we're drawing parallels with Ghana, for instance. The reason why the then ruling party could concede before the Electoral Commission went public was because their party agents were already sending them the results. So they were already collating in their own data center.
At their own situation room.
In their situation room. And so they knew they were already losing. And so it was easier for them to concede before the official declaration of the result. But that's the power of the party agent, that you're there to observe the process and to speak to the issues.
What now happens? Because I'm going to find out from you the functionalities of the beavers across other areas, other local government that the report you're getting. Since we couldn't see, we hope that when we go back, we can see more party agents. 16 political parties are participating. Now, this means that when this election is called, who is now going to countersign? How does that imply in law?
It means that, well, if it's only one party agent that's there, the one there would countersign.
If it's only one agent, two agent, three, they will countersign.
That can be subject to manipulation.
Well, and then even the others would then have no basis to complain about the process if you didn't ensure that your own, because as we've seen around here, nobody is preventing anybody from performing their functions. Nobody is intimidating any party agent, nobody is issuing threats. So they are supposed to freely come out. She was talking about Ghana. It's the same thing about Liberia, where we observed their general elections, their presidential election. The party agents there were so serious-minded people, mostly young people, and very, very patient. They sat through the process, through the country, and they were asking questions. In some cases where there were issues with the figures and so on, they raised it. Everybody agreed, corrections were made. So they were a decisive factor in the smooth conduct, so to say, of the last general election in Liberia.
It's very worrying. The reason Cynthia and Larry were dwelling on this is because this is supposed to be where we do the litmus test. It is central. It is everything you dream of in an election. They came early, the officials came early, security agencies came early, we were here early. So everybody is, so what exactly is wrong with the party agents for not coming out? We don't know. But talk to us, let me start with you, Larry. Beavers functionality, because the rule has to be clear. We need to use beavers to be able to check electoral fraud. What are you hearing on ground besides what we've seen here? Here seems to be going very well. Other places, do you have any report to the contrary?
Not yet. I've not picked any reports about beavers in terms of the level of functionality or whether it actually, malfunctioned. But the assurance that we got before now from INEC was the fact that there will always be backup, and where there are issues, those issues will be promptly attended to. And we can only hope that that would happen all over the places, because this is one of the reasons why people doubt the credibility. The moment people hear that beavers is not functioning, then they begin to make assumptions, and the assumptions lead to perception that the electoral process itself is not fair. So we just hope that what we've seen around here would probably replicate itself across the state, and I'm sure that maybe by the time we come back, we'll have more update information on the use of beavers for this particular election.
All right, Cynthia, before we throw it back to the studios, because I won't I told Samson and the rest, we're working together. Talk to us about the report Yiaga is getting as far as functionality of the beavers is concerned.
So far, I see I'm actually on my WhatsApp trying to reach out. So far, we've not gotten any critical incident with respect to the beavers, and I'm seeing reports, at least from different local governments. So far, Odono Kofia, OE, process still going. One report, beavers is reportedly failed for some cats. At least 3 persons have issues while we were there. This is from OE, Teje Boys, polling units 010, Teje Boys 5. but the officials are trying to address that. I'm sure it's almost similar with what I saw earlier when the beavers, I'm not sure why, but having issues to verify some of the PVCs, and perhaps...
Are there alternatives to that?
Yeah, so the alternative is to use the backup beavers. Like what we had in 002 behind us, they have two
yes,
beavers.
I thought they had two
so
beavers.
when one was delayed, they just focused on the other one. And so I'm hoping that that's what would happen in this Otunteje Boys Primary School in Oyi local government area. But that is the only place. The other one from Dunokofia said beavers working so far, going well, security present, things are moving well so far. So we're seeing reasonable, positive stories that we have, and we're projecting that at least as at 7:30, over 40% of polling units had officials present. But this is going to be updated. This is from what we saw earlier. Our data is showing us about 48% actually, but I'm sure by the time we get reports from everyone, we would have a better update, because this is just report from some of our sampled polling units.
All right, so that's as far as we're following up, and we hope that it's going to get better. It's a long day ahead. It's a long walk before the final moment, but Bukola and Ayo, that's how it is. So that's the feel we are getting here. We go around to make observation, ask questions, see it for ourselves, and get report from all of them as far as the issue of the elections right here is concerned. The reason why we dwelt on some of the voting process, turnout of voters, and all the things we were asking questions around and deliberating over is because if there is one place that is safe to come and vote and everything is ready for you to come and exercise your franchise, that will be right here at the community primary school in Amobia in Oka South local government area, where they have 3 polling units totaling about 3,322 registered voters. But the numbers have not been encouraging yet, but we want to assume it's early in the day. But we'll keep you updated.